Hey everyone, Wanderbot here, and welcome back to another episode of Omsi Loops and/or Idle Loops. I don't know, I really enjoyed this yesterday, but as a lot of people pointed out, I completely goofed to the beginning. First 20 minutes, I was just breaking the first 3 pots and just making a little bit of incremental progress on exploration, which, admittedly, I was doing the math for it, I barely was wasting time. Like, for the basic exploration action, and even just a lot of this stuff, just breaking a handful of pots and then doing something else is fine. You technically lose a little bit of efficiency, but as you gain skills and experience by just doing literally everything, it really didn't make a difference. Especially at the bonus second speeds that I'm currently running. I wish it would actually tell me the current... Oh, it is currently actually saying 19 extra seconds per second, 20 times speed. I like that. I might actually boost that up even higher at some point. We'll figure it out. For now, I should probably figure out what I want to do. Currently, I'm doing a little bit of strength training, but I think that's kind of... it's not moot. It's definitely useful. But it's not really a good game plan, so I think I'm going to turn it off. Let's see. Well, I guess the big one is we're doing quests. Where's meet people? Turn that on. Because I think let's go back to meeting people. And meet everybody in town, and then we start investigating town. Let's just max out town first, then we can start looking into going into dungeons, buying supplies and whatnot. Part of it is if I can get more long quests, I might be able to do some things. Because those kind of sort of have a net zero. However, as my skills get better and better, it will be easier for me to as my like stat levels go up, they become more and more efficient. So normally it would cost 6,000 mana to do this. However, with the discount, it ends up using 400 less. So we have a small net positive for using this, but it's also great stat experience. So might as well. Anyway, while that's going on, let's take a look at some of the other incremental games I've been playing. So I'm only going to do like a little bit of hopovers to some of these. But seeing as we're just waiting for the progress to go, I might as well take a look at my progress on Evolve. A couple other things. This is going to be a soft intro to me potentially doing some incremental soup streams or something. I don't know. I've been wanting to stream a little bit, but I need kind of a goal for it. I used to do like full stream playthroughs, but that's kind of awkward. Mainly from the perspective of like people lose interest kind of fast. And I wonder if having a more like freeform, a more freeform kind of show where I just pick a thing and do something and maybe have some topics to talk about or who knows what. A thing that I could do. And it would let me cycle a bunch of incremental games, which is kind of fun in its own way. So yeah, this is Evolve. I did a video on this a couple days ago. A week ago. It was the one with the cactus in the thumbnail. And I really like that game. Or I like this game. Part of it is Ooh, what is this? Low intel battle? Oh, I see. Let's just go attack them, but we're not doing that. I'm just gonna wait until this is maxed out. There we go. Yeah, we're currently raiding them in hopes of getting steel. Currently, no way of doing it. I've also been messing around with Arcanum a little bit, but this one's so idle that it's like barely even worth talking about. Admittedly, this character is nearly max level. So, oh, actually, I guess we have a couple of things to do. I can make a snow homunculus. That'll be fun. All right, let's go back to Idle Loops and take a look at where this is going. So, boy, meeting people is glacial. Okay. What if I'm at 100 speed? Okay, credit where credit is due. Stuff is actually progressing now. I think I'm going to say this is one of my favorite idle/incremental games already, purely on merit of being able to set whatever speed I want. I don't know if it's like falling apart a little bit as a result of these things. I hope it isn't. But it is one of those where like, this would be so much slower if I could not increase this. Like, let's turn off bonus seconds for a moment. This is how long the game is normally, and how slow it is. Bonus seconds means I can actually get somewhere. And even then, I'm sure it's going to be agonizingly slow as we go along. I was kind of hoping raising my skill level would speed things up a little bit, but as far as I know, well, I don't know actually. I bet each of these mana is the time cost. Yeah, it is. Mana is the time cost. So the more efficient I am at doing each of these actions, the let's see if I can actually do a second another short quest in there. Yep, looks like we're fine. The more efficient I am with doing each of these actions, the faster they take. And so they will become blisteringly quick. Eventually, I just need to get my stats up to honestly obscene levels, and that's going to take a while. I don't necessarily mind it, but it is one of those where it's like, I would not actively be playing this game. I would not even be doing this video if I could not boost this speed. And even then, I don't know. Once I start doing incremental soup properly, I think it'll be a little easier. Let's see, how much mana do I have left? I could probably fit in a 6th here. Let's see, what was I going to say? Like, once I start doing incremental soup, then I will probably start doing more videos a little bit more actively on this game. Maybe? Maybe. I don't know. I have to figure it out, because I've got a bunch of other things to do. Obviously, you know, we're a couple days from the, well, start of 2025. And I'm very much a goal-oriented person. I've got notebooks and lists all around me of things that I want to do in various ways, shapes, and forms. And so it's just like, okay, what are my goals for 2025? You know, do I want to just kind of keep doing the same thing that I've always been doing, or do I want to mix in something new? And so I've been very much in this kind of like, yeah, I need to start mixing it up a little bit more than I have been. Just purely from the perspective of like, I don't know, there's just a lot of things that I want to get done in life, and I don't want to just like sit on my butt and only play video games for the rest of my life. Let's see. So what do we have? Fight monsters in Beginnersville. This might have been yesterday. It's also new, the way they respond and attack. You're not ashamed to admit you almost got brained by a deer. Okay, we saw that one. 60% of people met. Almost seems like most people have something they want done. The real problem is figuring out what's worth your time. Yeah, that's entirely fair. Yeah, let's meet everybody in town, and then we can start looking into investigations and whatnot. Let's take a look at my stats, too. I mean, it's pretty all-roundy. Go figure. A couple of the stats, maybe not so much so. Because, yeah, what is meeting people? Determined by heavily on charisma. Which would explain why it's such a high stat. Interesting that it doesn't have an experience multiplier, but it's gained so much. I guess it's because I have to do so much of it. Also, throwing a party, I guess, would scale my charisma stat pretty high. I don't think that matters too much. But yeah, so back in the day, I would say, like, back when I was really avidly streaming, it was a little easier for me to just, you know, stream, then cut the videos up, and then just go off and do whatever I want for the day. Ooh, let's see if I can mix in a couple of these. The main thing is I don't want to spend too much time questing to the point where my mana runs out. And so as long as it doesn't run out here. Mana used, mana remaining. Okay, I gotta check this one. Mana remaining was 2,000. Mana remaining is 356. So I can't add any more to that one. But if we pick up any more quests, I might be able to slap it here. Because that says mana remaining 2,000. So I could fit in 3 more, at least, before that one caps out. Good to know. But yeah, so one of my main goals is very much to write more in general, but specifically like blog posts on the industry and whatnot. I'm sure a lot of you have probably kind of heard about how, yeah, games journalism and games media is really kind of taken a huge hit. It was never really that, I hate to say valuable, because it was valuable. There absolutely is value in like proper games journalism and proper games media, but the problem is from like a corporate business side of things, no, it functionally had little value and was constantly underpaid and poorly treated. And also very much, you know, at the behest of whatever the corporate heads want people to talk about, or not talk about in certain cases. And, like, it varies from like a media to media branch. So some might actually be much more friendly, some might be more analytical, but almost always what ends up happening is whatever the company is gets sold off to some new investment group that thinks that they know how to do a games journalism better, and almost inevitably it gets ruined because, hey, guess what? A bunch of Silicon Valley investment types have no idea how to run good journalism. And so that usually kind of backfires. Okay, we're at 14. You can't do more. And so, like, you know, there are some people kind of bridging the gaps, and I've noticed and very much experienced the fact that, yeah, a lot of people turn to YouTubers like me as kind of like a alternate version of games journalism, games media, and games promotion. And it makes sense to some degree. You know, I used to read, I think it was Rock, Paper, Shotgun, and honestly, they actually had some pretty good articles and would cover a decent amount of games. But I think I just fell off because, I don't know, I think I was just busy at the time. But I never really felt like going back because every time I checked back in, it didn't really fit my tastes anymore. And I'd seen somebody talking about this kind of in the same vein that put a better label on it of, it's hard to want to follow like a specific high generalist website when you can find a creator or a specific person on social media that fits your tastes to a T that's doing most of that curation for you. You know, discovering the games that you actually potentially are interested in, and saving you the time and effort of having to go out of your way to, I don't want to say discover them necessarily. How much mana does it cost? 100? Costs 100 just to be able to buy mana. Ouch. Hopefully we can get that to be more efficient. How much does it actually cost at this point? 93. So yeah, not that much of a discount, but it's getting there and it's getting better. And so I think to some degree, and I guess this has always been true, especially since I started doing a lot of heavy indie impressions, but yeah, I'm probably kind of one of the better buyer's guides out there for like, hey, you know, a cool looking indie game came out. Let's see what Wander said about it. And I'm like, yeah, it's great. It's pretty good. Check it out. And yeah, that actually is somewhat, I don't want to say like valuable, but it's a kind of reliable thing that I can, reliable service is something that people actually like expect and look for. Oh, looks like it can fit one more of these in. And then I'm going to have to make a new branch until I speed up a bunch. Let's see, having met a large portion of the people in the village, you almost feel guilty about stealing from them. Almost. Yeah, your morals and ethics probably do kind of degrade pretty hard in a time loop. What was I going to say? I don't know. But it's one of those where I was kind of hoping, since I'm a largely independent operation, to actually start expanding a little bit more into the like, hey, let's talk about certain things in the industry. Last year I tried to do some game interviews with games journalists, or not games journalists, game developers. And unfortunately they kind of flopped. I think part of it was because I was mostly talking about the specific games, and I think the better thing that I want to do is have more of kind of like a light podcast where I'm talking to industry people about industry topics rather than one specific game. Because, like, unless I'm talking specifically about Slay the Spire, most people aren't probably going to be like, oh, you know, you're talking to the developer of some unknown indie game. I want to hear about that. Whereas, like, talking to the developer or developers of Slay the Spire about, like, Slay the Spire 2, I think that has a little bit more interest value to a lot of folks. But if it was like, hey, I'm going to talk to this small developer about making a time loop visual novel, or making visual novels in general, that might have a little bit more. Or talking to incremental game developers about like, yeah, how do you balance these things? What are your influences? What's the design philosophy? Maybe that's a little bit more of like a better buy-in. I don't know. I'll have to figure this out, because I do actually want to interview people. I think interviews are interesting, and I think they have a lot of potential. But it's figuring out how to make it work and be interesting is tougher. And so, yeah, probably just picking a single topic and going from there. I don't know. And then also Shell and I probably are going to do some kind of independent podcast thing where we pick a topic, kind of like a light video essay, but not scripted. So we can just, I don't know, talk about games of the year, for example. Like, I have a bunch of games on a game of the year list that I need to publicize in some way, shape, or form. Probably as a post, because making a video on it would take a long time, but being able to do that in a semi-unscripted manner seems like it would be kind of an easy way of doing it. or at least extending it further. And then we can also talk about, like, yeah, how do you even select your game of the year? I saw somebody else talking about how a lot of creators, a lot of people on social media are sharing their, top games of the year list, and most of them were from the last couple of months. And I thought that was kind of an interesting observation that, yeah, the year has been so packed with cool games and also just kind of long that it's easy to get to almost assume that things that started, the games that came out at the beginning of the year might have actually came out last year instead. It's long enough that it feels like a year ago. And I thought that was kind of an interesting observation, and just the idea of, like, how do you select your game of the year? Oddly enough, I was one of the jurors for the Indie Game Awards this year. Really not too much of a position. Mostly just, hey, play all of these games and then vote for your favorites. And vote for the ones that you think fit this category best. Let's see, how much gold do I get per short quest? Each mana buys one. Okay, so these 2 short quests. Oops. Okay. Yeah, the short quests absolutely still let's see what I was gonna say. The short quests absolutely still get you a net positive. Even doing one short quest and then buying mana with it is worth it. So I guess there's gonna be 20 total. So I'll probably do 5, 10, and 5 again as kind of my, like, short quest loop once we've discovered all of them. But so one of the interesting things I ran into with the Indie Game Awards is, like, I wasn't the most judicious. There was a couple of games I literally could not get to because I didn't have a copy and I didn't want to buy it full price. So I, like, didn't vote for a category because I was like, I just don't even feel comfortable voting for this one. It was women-led games, and I don't know, something about it as a guy voting for best women-led game feels kind of weird to me. And I feel like it would be slightly presumptuous of me to have, like, a strong or even voting opinion on that one, so I figured I'd just abdicate and let, the ladies that were also jurors have more of a say in that one than me. But just kind of within all of this is that, like, I voted for games that I thought were, the best games in the category by far, or something like that. And I was actually wrong on almost, like, every count. That, like, most of the games that actually won the Indie Game Awards were not the ones I voted for. And I actually thought that was really interesting. I'd love to, I don't want to say investigate that further, because it's just like, to have the experiences I had and then to have that not match the Game Award experience or, the Game Award results was fascinating, purely from a perspective of just, like, I guess I was baffled by some of the choices, and I'm like, really? I didn't think of the music from that game being that good. And specifically Pacific Drive, I think, got best music. And that was a surprise to me because I don't remember the music being very good. But I also didn't have the radio on because of YouTube copyright issues, because an amount of the soundtrack was licensed. And so from my perspective, like, of course the music wasn't that good. It was just kind of ambient stuff. Good, but not, like, anything to write home about. And so I listened to the soundtrack, but without the music actually playing during the game, I think I was kind of losing an amount of that. And the idea of trying to be objective in one of these situations where you are presented with a choice and you have to try and be as objective as you can about it, while also realizing that, like, there's no way to fully be objective about this, that my lived experience is going to be wildly different from somebody else's. And I thought that was neat. I thought that was a cool way of a cool perspective. And, like, I'd love to talk to the other jurors and just see, like, yeah, why did you think this way? Why this? Why that? I don't know. I think it just would be an interesting conversation to have, but then examining within that, like, why did I make the decisions that I made? Why was this game so much better than the others? And how would you boil it? Like, if you play 100 games in a year, how would you ever boil that down to 5, 10, something like that? Okay, we are no longer meeting people. We are now We were investigating, so it's this one. Just gonna hit restart. There we go. Because we want to get to the point where I can start doing some long quests too, or more long quests too. Okay, so you've helped everyone who's been willing to take you on, and the gold from your work jingles beautifully in your pockets. The satisfaction of a job well done fills you with pride. Oh, you've spoken to everyone, every child, adult, teen, animal, and plant in this village. Everyone and everything. We talked to the plants. The character really is a Mana-Guzzling gremlin. And yeah, oh, investigation is so much faster than talking to people. I love that. So people were saying, a lot of people were razzing me because I specifically didn't understand what this circle does. Apparently it is go for lootables first, I think. It's literally not clear. And they were like, no, just check the tooltip. There is no tooltip for this thing. It was actually really interesting, the reaction to my video yesterday. Like, yeah, I made some minor mistakes just because the game's a little vague. But it was actually quite baffling how many people were really mad at me for not understanding certain features like this. This was confusing. It makes sense now that I'm on the other side of it, of like, oh yeah, of course. This is the amount of pots with mana left. This is the amount of pots that can have mana, and so these will be equal until you start clearing them out. And then these are the ones you haven't checked for, or you haven't checked yet, so you want to go a little bit above your total, or you want to just get rid of lootables first and just waste a couple of loots breaking pots somewhat indiscriminately. But for me, like, that was not obvious at first, because once again, it's a lot of UI. There's a lot of things going on, things to keep track of, and then no good tooltip or tutorial to really tell me, like, yeah, this is exactly how it works. I'm sure some of you playing this game probably picked it up instantly, maybe more than others, I don't know. But also most of you playing this probably weren't trying to commentate over the whole dang thing. And I don't know, the vitriol when I make mistakes is always a little baffling, just because it's like, I'm fine, man. Let's see, we're doing investigation. Let's see if I can do 6 quests without running out. No, looks like we're good. Because yeah, by the time I get to the long quests, my mana discount is actually getting kind of high, so we are making a net positive here. Let's see, how much do we have left? Mana remaining 4,060. So actually I could do 2 more. I could do 2 more quests before we have to before we'd have to break it up a little bit. I almost feel like I could do 3 if I could get that discount to be just a little higher, which would then just put me at the 10 required quests. But I will always request, kind of in a futile manner, if you're watching a YouTuber and they miss something obvious, there's a very real possibility that they're so distracted they didn't notice and might not notice, and it might take them a little while. And that, like, you really got to realize that I'm spending a decent amount of my brain power talking. I think I had this problem. Oh, what was it? What video was it? Oh, it's actually a video that'll be going out in a day or two. I'm not entirely sure, called Isles of Silence. But I was remarking on the music being very, very chill. But while I was trying to talk about, like, the music being so chill that I was, like, kind of tuning out and falling asleep a little bit, I literally lost my train of thought, but I was still talking. So I was thinking about something completely different while my mouth was still trying to finish the thought, effectively running 2 parallel thoughts at once, but only one of those I was, like, fully cognizant of, which I thought was fascinating, just because, like, how can you even do that as a human being without breaking? But what ended up happening is that the buffered words that I had kind of queued up to say ran out, and then I couldn't complete the thought because my brain was elsewhere. And it was fascinating going back to rewatch it, because I had no memory of myself saying those things, because I was too busy looking at statistics going up and trying to optimize something on the side. And it was one of those where, like, yeah, it's kind of impressive that I can do that, but also go figure, I get distracted sometimes, you know, look at a meter going up and I'm like, holy shit, my charisma's talent level is 34 already. I mean, I guess I've been interacting and talking with people a lot. but I just didn't realize it was up there as much. You know, I might be looking at like these things and I have another thought like, man, I really wish raising my magic level would give me a couple of cantrips. You imagine if you could actually cast a spell, cost you a little bit of mana, but, you know, maybe it does something useful, like increases your mana absorption. Or if there was like a talent tree of like, hey, if at mana level 10, you get a talent point. Do you want better mana absorption or something? It doesn't matter that much. Okay, how are we doing on investigation? Actually, we're getting pretty close to done, which is nice. Let's take a look at this. How much mana is remaining? 4,000. Okay, so I can fit 2 more of these comfortably, and then I'm going to have to buy. Okay, so let's do 2 of these. Move him here. Buy mana. And for the sake of tidiness, let's do 5 and 5. I think also currently one of those is wasted. Oops, but whatever, I don't care that much. No, I'll turn it back down, at least for a moment. But, like, you can always tell if somebody has actually tried to be a streamer or not when it comes to interacting with me. But, I mean, not always. Like, there's plenty of normal people that aren't going to yell at a YouTuber. But if you've ever been a creator with an audience that actually, like, watches you, you will know that there's, like, a very strong negative reaction to making mistakes. It is, like, super consistent and I don't want to say baffling because it makes sense. You know, how could you not see this obvious thing that I noticed 10 minutes ago? I'm watching you play this for 20 minutes and you're missing this extremely obvious thing. You know, how do you miss the gorilla in the room? I think that is like an actual thought experiment. Unfortunately, I don't know it off the top of my head, and I don't really feel like pausing the video to like Google this thing. You know what? I mean, that's exactly what I'm gonna do. Okay, so admittedly, I'm just gonna regurgitate this a little bit from NPR. But the phrase invisible gorilla comes from an experiment created 10 years ago from 2010, so I guess back in 2000. It was a video where study participants were asked to watch a video in which 2 teams in black shirts and white shirts were passing a ball back and forth. And midway through this, like as people are counting this ball being passed back and forth, a person in a gorilla suit walks through the room, pounds on its chest a little bit, and then walks away. And at the end of it, everyone was polled, did you see the gorilla? And apparently like half the people literally did not see the gorilla. And I've always been kind of obsessed with the idea of that because it's just like, how do you miss that gorilla? Because when I watched the video, I noticed the gorilla. It's like, what is this? Why? But I lost track of the ball because I was suddenly paying attention to this gorilla that exists in this room and was surprised about. And so trying to juggle both of those tasks simultaneously, the counting the ball while also acknowledging that there is a literal gorilla in the room. Oh, we're done investigating now, so I can turn that off. I guess while I figure this out, let's just turn on weightlifting. Okay, so the villagers are all too happy to share some stories with you at this point. It doesn't hurt that you know a little bit about most people now, and are more than willing to strike up a conversation. You've done it. Spoken to everyone in the village. Spent a loop or more on each of them, actually. You know what needs to be done, and at this point you go straight there. You can also engineer a situation in which the more stubborn ones will offer you a quest. You've cleared out cellars, helped build a house, collected flowers for dyes, worked in the bakery, taken out the trash, and helped a seamstress finish a gift for her husband. Your reputation is spreading as the helpful courier. Everyone is at the very least willing to listen to you. I'm gonna put this here. Let's turn magic training back on for a little while. So what else do we have? So we can fight some monsters, we can heal the sick. I think the best thing we can do is probably get my combined magic and combat up to the point where I can do dungeons and buy supplies and some other things just to see what I can get to. So let's get up to magic 20, combat 15. Where's my combat training? That is warrior lessons. Because I might as well have these directly next to each other. 50 mana just to buy glasses. Sadly, not much of a reason to do it at the moment. Because yeah, it affects anything with the glasses icon, but currently nothing else does. It's just Wander. Actually, it's getting pretty quick to get up to Magic 20. I thought this was going to take longer, but looks like we're fine. I was expecting we get a couple more things popping up, but I guess it's one of those that once we start our journey, it gets a little bit more... we branch out a little bit more. I mean, that's the assumption at least. But I still want to try small dungeoneering and haggling just to see what those get me. Because we're not ready to leave yet. I wanna see everything that there is to see at the very least. Let's see. Yeah, charisma is up to 37. I wonder what the max level is. Maybe there isn't one. That it just keeps going forever. Yeah, prestige bonuses are always active. Each time you complete the game, you receive 90 points to spend on these bonuses. Export and save your data locally before attempting to trigger prestige. Ability to spec into prestige bonuses may be done at any time. Keep in mind this will reset all progress. So it resets you back to the very beginning, but yeah, you can boost some of your stats. Experience gain of all physical stats, mental stats, self and team combat. Increases number of findables per zone. Interesting. Speed of all zones by multiplier of 5%. Mana received from merchants at 10% per level. Oh boy. Experience earned is spread amongst all stats by 2% per level. Huh. Yeah, I don't know how long it's going to take to prestige this game. I usually like prestiging midway through a game to get that bonus rather than at the very end, because I feel like once I've beaten it, I kind of lose interest. But that might just be a me thing. Okay, let's throw in go to a dungeon and turn off combat training. So, small changes every time. It's harder to get used to. The soul stones at the end last through... Wait, the soul stones at the end last through loops, but they're not always in the dungeon. Strange. Okay. A dungeon requires different skills at different points. One action can clear multiple floors if your stats are high enough. Gives magic plus self-combat. Progress points per mana unlocked. Find value requires reputation 2 above. 1 soulstone per completion. Hover over looted for info. Okay, we'll get to that in a second. There's also story. Oh. I think we've seen that. Okay, so dungeons. You reach the end of the dungeon, where a softly glowing orb floats on a pedestal. You found the dungeon core. For the first level of the dungeon, at least, you grasp it, and the essence dives into you, infusing your very being with the power it holds. It's a very small amount of power, but this is a small dungeon. You'll be back to take the power again, knowing with the foreknowledge implanted that this will stay with you no matter where you are. Okay. Small dungeon attempted. Cavernous entrance to the village dungeon greets you. It's dark and looming, with rocks forming jagged fangs. It's the most imposing thing you found in town so far. Wait, I beat the dungeon before I entered it? Reach the end of the dungeon again, but for the first time the core isn't glowing. It's always been thought that dungeon cores feed upon the mana spent around them. You're beginning to think the essence of its previous incarnations drains it somehow. It doesn't always happen, but you need to put more mana into the world to reap the core's benefits out of it. You shrug, accepting that is another oddity of the loops. So find soul stones. Oh, so the soul stones, these over here. So the soul stones are an additional passive stat bonus that probably stacks on top of talents as a permanent thing. Yeah, it said check lootables. Here? Okay, here we are. Each soulstone improves a random stats experience gain by 1 plus soulstones, blah blah blah. Each soulstone has a soulstone that when received multiplies the chance you'll get the next one by 0.98. Chance to receive a soulstone recovers per floor at a small amount per mana. So it doesn't look like I'm getting to the end of the dungeon. But I am gaining stats. Okay. I'm going to turn this off for a moment, because I like going into the dungeon. Let's buy some supplies, see what that gets me. Or at least try to. Oh, you only need one set of supplies. Okay, so that's worthless. Haggling. Reputation and reduce the price of supplies by 20. One reputation to reduce the price of supplies by 20%. Honestly, we just turned the dungeon back on. Okay, so let's turn off meeting people. Let's turn off... What is this one? Oh, that's heal the sick. We don't need analysis. We currently don't need the glasses. That's all training. Manage loadouts. Let's do... rename. Save to list. Oh. Begin Dungeon. Rename. There we go. Okay. Let's do Journey. Rename. Okay, so we want to turn off really all of this stuff. Buy supplies. Turn it off briefly. Okay. So let's see what Start Journey does. Follow the trail to end up the next town. You need to keep moving until you learn how to shut these loops off. Cost of supplies. Finish once to unlock force path actions. Then finish this in order to use force path actions. Okay. So what else do we have? Buy supplies. A tent, enough rations to last for a month, portable cooking equipment, and other assorted paraphernalia for your trip. Tent is durable, and the rations don't taste bland and lifeless. Probably worth the 300 gold asking price. Good thing you know how to haggle. And then buy supplies in Beginnersville, bought without haggling. How luxurious. You had the gold to just throw it away now. Even though the mana would have been more beneficial in the long run. Not having to haggle once in a while is surprisingly nice. Truly, you've grown luxuriant. Okay, what is my reputation by this point? 10. Okay. I might not have enough mana for this. Oh. Okay, so we're still in Beginnersville. Maybe I don't need this anymore. Okay, so let's go back. We want to buy some glasses. Here. Okay, looks like I have enough. So let's explore the forest as the last one. Get rid of a couple of these. Because yeah, I think I only needed to buy the supplies once. Maybe? I'm going to do a pause before restart. I need to look at some of this. Oh, okay, so I need to start that journey first. Okay, so we want to haggle. Let's do 6 times. Then we want to buy supplies. Move this here. Okay. This should work. Did I not have enough gold? Oh. Does the long quest only give me 30? It does. Bump that up a little bit more. Do one more. Oh, okay, we actually got it. We managed to explore just a little bit. Okay, every good mana spot has 250 mana. Every 10 mana spots have good mana. Okay, move this down. So we can actually keep doing this. Let's do 3 currently. How much remaining mana? Mana remaining, actually a fair bit. Gold remaining 150. Let's try this. Can I haggle it down to free? Failed attempts 5. Okay, so I can't get it down to free, but I can do it 10 times. And then I can buy just a little bit, giving me a decent amount of mana left. Enough that we can explore at the very least. Okay, I'm going to bump this up to like 5. Because we've actually made a decent amount of progress on exploring this forest. Okay, where were we? Okay. After spending most of a loop preparing, you're finally ready to leave Beginnersville. Well, let's actually just have it loop. In a way, you're going to miss this town, and the thought of leaving almost brings a tear to your eye until you realize you'll be back the next loop. Grumbling, you set off, hiking in the forest. By the time you're ready to make camp, you're good to move again. Or you're in a good mood again. The forest is beautiful, teeming with life, and looks to have boundless places to explore. Best of all, on your way here, you pass several locations that are absolutely saturated with mana. You think you'll check those out first. Shopkeep has some of the supplies you need, but they're of inferior quality and you're not paying his asking price for them. At least that's what you tell him. You argue, grumble, and make sharp comments, and are just in general unpleasant to one another. Okay, you leave town, heading towards the forest that stood between the village and Merchanton. You've exhausted every option in Beginnersville, and there's nothing here that will stop the loops. It's time to look for solutions elsewhere. You look at the side of the path from your little campsite and are struck with a sense of wanderlust. You leave the camp to explore. Not too far from your campsite, you find a tiny glade practically overflowing with mana. Okay, wild mana and forest path. It's just sitting there. You stray only slightly from the beaten path and find an abundance of mana just waiting for someone to take it. The only catch is that you need to extract it from the plants surrounding it. They've proven slightly unwilling to part with it. Your sense of wanderlust hasn't faded. You balk at the darker areas of the forest. You continue to find tiny glades filled with mana throughout the forest. You follow what looked to be a game trail, only to find it actually is a branch off of a ragged footpath. When you break through the tall bushes, you decide to follow the path. If it's been walked down so often, it must head somewhere worthwhile. So we have gather herbs. So every 10 funny plants are herbs. We can hunt, sit by the waterfall, take an old shortcut. Boost this up to 10. Seeing as I've got a whole bunch of mana sources to tap, and how much are these worth? 150 to get 250 mana, but it's going to be cheaper by the time we complete each of these. Not that much cheaper. Yeah, how many times are we looping this? It was like a lot. Like 16 times? It's actually not bad at all. I think I'm going to let the forest... I'm probably just going to keep exploring the forest for a while. Yeah, we have a hermit. What is this one? Old men are a pain unless you know something they care about. Talk to the hermit gives you 1% more hermit knowledge. Learn per shortcut explored. Huh. Also gives additional herbs. We can also train dexterity and speed here, which actually are probably going to be quite good. But we've got to get the forest up more. And then, mana cost to continue reduced by 60 per old shortcut percentage. So if I get that up to 100%, that's what, 6,000? Yeah, it's cheap. Or at least cheaper. So we can also gather some herbs. I'm going to put one of these onto the list. Let's see how much mana remains. Decent amount. Okay. So you continue exploring the forest. Wait. Okay, yeah. You continue exploring the forest. You've discovered something odd about it. One side of the main path is calm, you suppose, peaceful even, welcoming. The other makes you feel ill at ease, as if there are unseen eyes constantly on you. One side is light and airy, the other is dark and gloomy. Then gathering herbs. You pull up random plants across the forest that emanate mana, only to find that in most cases, they're simply plants that have started gathering mana, but in other cases, they're actually magical plants. Small distinction, but a significant one. Yeah, plants, please check for use. Yeah, but we don't know what the plants do. They're not the cheapest either. So I'll probably just keep slowly checking funny plants. There's a lot of them, though. Main problem is I don't necessarily know what they get me. Because it costs 2 mana to dig them up, but until I actually know what they do, it doesn't really seem that practical. Oh. Unlock it. 20% shortcut explored and 40 magic. So we've got to go back to training my magic. Oh, it's okay. I can get a lot of other stuff done before we talk to the old hermit, at the very least. Look at an oddity about an oddly out-of-place trail of flowers. Why not see where it leads? You can find more herbs along the path. So, yeah, shortcuts and flower trails probably also have their own things. So let's see about touching the shortcut at least a little bit, just to see if any of them have anything. Any of them unlock new things. So you found flowers in the forest growing almost in pitch black beneath the thick canopy of the gloomy side of the forest. Yet the flowers grow. There's a desire to follow them, almost as if they're saying, "Follow me." And then, old shortcut. During your trip through the forest, you discover a small and worn path leading off the main thoroughfare. Wondering where it leads, you decide to explore it. And we're making some serious progress here. It's just slow and incremental. I do wonder if I would have actually been better off leaving the game running a little bit, just dungeon crawling to get a bunch of bonus talent experience. Because currently, yeah, we got the Soulstone multiplier. Is that a flat bonus? No. So the Soulstone multiplier is actually a multiplier on top of the multiplier. Yeah, so it multiplies whatever the talent multiplier by whatever the Soulstone multiplier is. So yeah, we're probably going to want to go back into that dungeon and do some things. I just kind of wanted to see what was here. And there's some training and some other things, but I don't know if it's practical. Oh, you know the other thing I should be doing? I should probably crank up the mana. Okay, let's turn off the shortcut. Let's go back to just exploring the forest. This will give me, like, boatloads of mana. And I'll stop checking the plants for the moment. We don't know what they're used for, so it's kind of meaningless. Once we know what they actually do, it'll be worth it. So, old shortcut in the forest 10%, mildly surprised to discover a seemingly sprawling network of interconnected paths that seem to get almost everywhere within the forest. So I think the old shortcut is mostly to reduce this price. Still good, just... not... how to describe it? Oh, I'm going to be able to get 50 chunks of mana off of this. That's going to be nice. It's still good, but we just don't need to do it right now. The flower path might get me somewhere else. But again, also, who knows? And it seems like the most practical thing for me to do is just complete each and every one of these meters one by one. Maybe. I guess the one thing is if, like, gathering herbs lets me make mana potions, but I haven't found anything for that yet. Because let's turn on the flower path for a hot second, see if that pops up anything. Because we might unlock some new actions. We have Clear Thicket, and now we can train Dexterity. Which, like, some of these are going to be worth it, but best thing I could do is probably go back and really clear out that dungeon from Beginnersville. It does seem like following flowers actually goes extremely quickly. Maybe there's an upper limit on this. It does feel like the meter might fill out entirely. Wonder if it gets a secondary meter. Let's see. Yeah, do we do anything else? I don't know. I'm gonna let this run for a little bit. Okay, we've made some progress, so I might as well cut back in. Let's see. So, I think last time I was here. So, loops 1602. Explore forest 80%. You managed to figure out the favorite roaming spots of most herds in the forest by this point. You've also stumbled across a fair number of funny little green plants that resonate with mana, but in a form you're unable to absorb. You wonder if they can be used for some other purpose. You've done it. You find it impossible to get lost in the forest now, and your wanderlust is finally sated. Or satisfied. You've seen practically all you can in the forest, although there still are some areas that remain barred to you, with no obvious means of entry revealed by your cursory examination. Wonder if prestiging resets your, like, forest explored levels. Because I almost feel like prestiging should just reset these, but keep all the forest explored, because why would your character lose that stuff? Then flower trail 20%. Wow, we were zipping through that really fast. Flowers lead you to places in the forest you hadn't been. Discovered a thicket that was overflowing with mana, but you would need to experiment to figure out how to draw the mana out. The flowers continue to follow their unseen path, but you are starting to notice a pattern. So we have, sitting by the waterfall, we have a clear a thicket. I think I'll finish following the flower trail first, then we kind of mess around with it. We also have, like, bird watching, hunting, but I haven't figured out a means of selling hides, so it doesn't seem practical at the moment. And then if I want to talk to the hermit, I gotta go back and train my magic a bunch. I might still probably leave that for next time, largely by just going out and probably just hitting up the dungeon until I've truly maxed it out and get those stat gems up like crazy. I think even at the moment, there is kind of a practicality of, like, I am kind of wasting my time here. I just want to see if there was anything interesting that I could gain. But it seems like the best possible thing I could do is mostly do dungeon optimization. Because I don't think I can go... Can I go back? I might want to play around with that. I don't actually know if we gain much mana. Because how much mana are we at when this ends? Mana remaining. Guess that one. Mana remaining 7,000. So technically I'm gaining there. So I wonder if I can actually go to the forest and then come back and do dungeon stuff. I've never tried to add a town action after a forest action. There's strange plants aplenty to be found along the flower path, and you'd noticed that some had medicinal properties. You remembered from when you were young, the smell is unmistakable. Let's see. Oh, so the waterfall trains my soul level. Seems practical, but still not what I need at the moment. And again, if I'm going to be training anything, it's absolutely going to be dungeon crystals, first and foremost. Yeah, so what else do we even do at the moment? I mean, mostly we just let that flower path go. Luckily, we're putting like 50 actions worth in every single time. So I think I'm going to just come back here and peek at it every once in a while. Peek at this every once in a while. The main problem is, unless I'm mistaken, I literally cannot progress in... evolve until I get a single piece of steel, at which point my people are like, oh, steel! And so I'm just hanging out waiting for that to show up. Because yeah, I can't get crucible steel without 25 steel. Can't do brickworks without a ton of knowledge, which means I need a different type of setup for it. Maybe there's something I've missed here. I don't know. I think I'm mostly just stuck. I tried looking it up and people said, yeah, just keep raiding until you get it. And it's like, I wish I could almost schedule regular raids of my enemies. I mean, it's not that hard, but the other question is, of course, maybe the Divine Protectorate doesn't have any. I mean, I guess I could just fight these people. Unfortunately, there's not really much of a diplomacy aspect to this game, so it comes off as a little moot. Oh well, it's fine. It's a slow burn. Speaking of slow burns, where are we at on this one? 77%. And we're almost there. A little bit more. What about Arcanum? Melt Snomunculus. Oh, it gives me water gems. I don't think we need that. Huh. I need souls. I don't think I ever actually looked into soul storage. Now, how many souls do I have? 1. That's a problem. Okay, I'll look at that later. It's not that important. Yeah, I think we mostly wait for this one. The flower path was circuitous, circling around the darker side of the forest in patterns that you were starting to map out mentally. Okay, so the flower path I think I've maxed out at this point. Yeah, the patterns were strangely geometric, and you had an inkling the flower path had some sinister beginnings. Regardless, you explored the entire path. You were right too, it never did stray from the darker side of the forest. And then also started clearing the thicket, which was unlocked after doing 20% of the flower trail, which just gets me even more mana sources to dig through here. Bump this up to 60 at this point. So thicket, 1%. You trek through a thicket you found while following the flower path and decide to explore it. Maybe you'll find some more mana. It's not like it belongs to anyone. You found more of these secluded thickets off the flower path than you thought you would. You have a sense there are many more that you haven't found yet. The mana of these thickets is rich and helpful, extending your time in the loop to let you search for more and more. The break from people is a nice break from normal too. Oh, we also have a witch to go talk to. Okay. However, 80% or 60% thicket explored and 80 magic. So I think we're gonna max out the thicket. How much is this leaving me mana wise? Probably a lot. Yeah, 13,000. And the discount's starting to get pretty steep at this point. I think I'm gonna leave it here though. I don't think there's too much more for me to do, at least in the moment. We have a lot of meters to fill out, and probably before I record and stream this again, I'll max out exploring the shortcut thicket, and then possibly dungeon. I will at least go into the dungeon for a good long while. Just let those stats gain up, because I think one of my problems here is, yeah, I'm just don't quite have enough stat gain. Maybe. Like, the thing is, I don't even know how much it matters at the moment. So let's manage loadout. Save to list. Let's pause before restart. I want to try something. I'm going to turn off the thicket. Let's bump this up to 64. can I put the dungeon down here? No. Okay, so the answer is no matter what, the dungeon... I guess... I'm gonna just save this as forest rather than journey. Once you go into the forest, you cannot go back. Well, let's go back to load the dungeon. I don't think there's really much for me to do in the dungeon. I think we just let it go. Because yeah, how much mana does it cost? One dungeon exploration is 2,000. One soulstone per completion, hover over looted for info. Yeah, so we want to just let this go for a while. And then I also need to train my magic up to 80, which is going to take a long time. And seeing as I've already been in town, maybe that's it. I'll just complete a bunch of basic town actions before I play again. And then come back to this at a later date. What was the other question I was gonna... Right. How much of a mana stone benefit is it? It looks like it's your number times 2? No, times 2 plus 0.2? I don't know. I don't know the math of soul stones, but it seems very practical for me to get a bunch of them, as my dexterity multiplier is pretty dang high. And it seems like it's a good idea to just get a whole mess of them. Especially if I can get to the point where I'm clearing Dungeon 4, and then we'll go back to mana training once the dungeons are completely looted. Or, yeah, once the first 3 floors are completely out, then we start looking into, magic training again. Because right now I'm still getting a decent amount of soulstones, and that is extremely helpful. Anywho, I guess with all of that said, I've already kind of outroed this game before, but if you haven't played it before, it's Omsi Loops, and you can play it via the link in the description below. And I guess I could throw in links to Evolve and Arcanum if I forget. And if I did forget, if I don't forget, and if I did forget, just ask and I'll remember to pop them in. Anyway, I don't know if I'm gonna do another video on this. I just wanted to put a little bit more time into it because it felt like it really hadn't fully plumbed its potential. And now we've seen a decent amount of it, made a lot of progress, but have to do a little bit of an actual grind loop as opposed to discovering new things. So I'll come back later, maybe. Or maybe I finally stream it, who knows. So for now, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.